She was already standing there when I pulled up. Arms crossed, sunglasses too big for her face, and that same clipboard she always carried like it made her the president of the neighborhood. I didn't even get the truck fully in park before she shouted, "You're trespassing. This is private HOA land now." I stared at her, then at the massive steel fence that now cut clean through the edge of my ranch. It hadn't been there yesterday. "I own this land," I said, stepping out slowly. "This entire ranch has been in my family for 3 generations. She waved the clipboard like a weapon. "Not anymore. You failed to respond to our notice. The HOA has acquired an easement and placed an emergency boundary. No entry. No exceptions." I looked down at the dirt, at the tire tracks from her car, at the concrete footings that were still fresh. "You put this fence up overnight?" She smirked. "Emergency action. Voted on by the board." "There is no board," I replied. "There is now," she said, smug as ever. "As acting president of this Community Protection Committee, I've already filed a security complaint, and I'm giving you 10 minutes to leave before the authorities arrive." My heart pounded, but I kept my face calm. She wasn't bluffing. I could see 2 other HOA members, her buddies, standing near the far post. One of them had a padlock in hand. The other held what looked like bolt cutters just in case. And behind that giant locked gate, just barely in view, were my cattle. "My land, my whole life. You can't lock me out of my own home," I said, barely holding back the heat in my voice. She leaned forward, tapping the metal bars. "Then maybe you shouldn't have ignored the warning. It's not your home anymore." I watched as she clicked the padlock shut, then dropped a chain through the handles. 1 lock, 1 key. And that's when I smiled. Just a little. Because she didn't know what I'd done last week. She didn't know the land the gate was standing on didn't belong to her. Or the HOA. It belonged to me. Every square inch, including the patch where that shiny new gate stood. And I had the only key that opened it. I didn't say a word. Just turned around, walked calmly back to my truck, and opened the glove compartment. The key was still there, tucked under the registration papers, small, brass, and stamped with the name of the fencing company. She didn't notice me holding it when I walked back toward the gate. She was too busy gloating, telling her friends how she finally took care of the ranch nuisance and how the neighborhood would be safer now. "See," she said loudly, "that's how you deal with stubborn squatters. You give them a warning, then you lock them out. It's the law." I stood just a few feet from her now, staring through the bars. I could feel her eyes on me, waiting for me to explode or argue. But I just smiled and reached forward, clicked the key in. Her face dropped. The gate swung open with a slow creak, and I walked right in, calm, steady, like I was taking a stroll through my backyard. Because I was. She stumbled back. "Wait, what? Who gave you that key?" I turned around slowly, now inside the gate. "I did." "You can't. This gate is on HOA protected land." "That's funny," I said, pulling a folded paper from my pocket. "Because according to the county, this entire strip, including the path under your fence, is part of Parcel 43A, my land." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. I held up the county map. "I bought the border lot last week. The same one you assumed was abandoned. Turns out your little security fence is standing on my property." Her friends weren't laughing anymore. One of them started dialing his phone, whispering something urgent. "Don't move," she hissed. "You're going to regret this." I took another step toward her, calm, direct. "No, Karen. You're the one who's about to regret it." Because I knew something else she didn't. And the real law? They were already on their way. She tried to regain control, puffing up like a cat backed into a corner. "You're making a huge mistake. That fence is HOA jurisdiction now. You can't just barge in here like some cowboy." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Her shouting only made her look worse. And the look on her face when the sheriff's cruiser pulled up behind my truck? That was priceless. She froze. Real cops, real uniforms, and one of them, Deputy Walsh, stepped out with a file in hand. He nodded at me first. "Mr. Reyes?" I nodded back. "Appreciate you coming so fast." Karen's face went pale. He's trespassing, she blurted out. We have documents. He threatened us, and this area is under HOA lockdown. Deputy Walsh didn't even look at her. Ma'am, you've been warned before about misusing emergency claims. We've had reports from other homeowners. Now we've got footage and sworn affidavits. Wait, what footage? She snapped. IQ. Reached into my jacket and pulled out a flash drive. The workers who installed this fence, they were wearing body cams. Part of a new insurance protocol. They recorded you telling them this was abandoned land, even though the deed was already in my name. Karen staggered back like I'd slapped her. Her friends started to mumble, inching away from her like she was contagious. One of them, Doug, I think his name was, tried to pretend he wasn't holding bolt cutters. Deputy Walsh looked at the gate, then at me. You're saying this entire barrier was installed without your consent? I nodded. Overnight, no permit, no court order, and she chained it shut to keep me from entering my own home. Walsh sighed and waved to his partner. Cut it and bring me the padlock. Karen lunged. No, this is illegal. You don't know who I am. I have rights. You do, I said calmly. And you're going to get a chance to explain them in front of a judge. She screamed something incoherent, but the deputies were already collecting the chain, snapping photos, logging everything. And I just stood there, watching the gate swing wide open again. Not because I forced it, but because I never should have been locked out in the first place. Karen didn't stop yelling. She followed the deputies, flailing her arms, calling someone on speakerphone. Yes. Hello, this is urgent. I need HOA legal counsel now. He's invading the zone we secured. This is an emergency. But nobody was picking up, and I think she knew why. Because when the deputies started asking her questions like who exactly voted for the fence, where the permits were filed, and who approved the so-called emergency jurisdiction, her answers got shakier. There was a meeting, she insisted. It was online. Very official. Doug finally cracked. There was no meeting. He muttered, avoiding eye contact. She just typed something on a Word doc and taped it to his mailbox. Walsh raised an eyebrow. That the same notice you signed as president of HOA National Enforcement? She looked like she'd been slapped. That title is flexible. Not under state law, the deputy said flatly. Ma'am, you may be facing impersonation charges. And if this gate caused damages or blocked access to livestock, that's a separate issue entirely. Karen's voice lowered into a growl. This neighborhood is supposed to have standards. That man, he parks trucks in front of his house. His grass isn't even regulation length. I laughed, not loud, but enough for her to hear. You put a gate on private property because of my grass? She whipped toward me, eyes wild. You don't belong here. You don't fit the vision. We were fixing the neighborhood. You mean your version of it, I said. Then I pulled out one more document from my folder. This one was older. A year old, in fact. A rejected petition. From Karen, where she tried to make herself the official head of the HOA, stamped in red, denied, lack of quorum. No legal authority granted. Her signature was at the bottom. I handed it to Deputy Walsh. This is what she's been hiding. She's not just lying. She's been pretending to run something that doesn't legally exist. He read it silently, then looked at Karen again. This time, his voice was colder. We're going to need you to come with us, ma'am. Her mouth dropped open, but no sound came out. For the first time since this whole thing started, she was actually speechless. You can't be serious, she finally gasped. You're arresting me? For trying to protect the neighborhood? Walsh nodded to his partner. For trespassing, filing false reports, impersonating a legal authority, and potentially tampering with property lines? Yes, ma'am, we're serious. Doug took a step back like she had a contagious disease. I didn't know she was faking the whole HOA thing, he mumbled. She told us it was real. She said the county was backing it. Karen turned on him like a snake. You were in on it, Doug. You voted for the fence. You told me we had support. No, he said quietly. You told us we had to. You never even let us speak. The deputies were already reading her rights, but she kept staring at me. Even while they gently pulled her arms behind her back, she locked eyes with me like I'd stolen something from her. You'll regret this, she hissed. This whole community will regret this. I didn't say anything, just looked at her calmly as they walked her toward the squad car. Her voice echoed over the gravel, getting smaller with every step. I was the only one keeping this place safe. You'll all thank me when it falls apart. The car door slammed shut. Silence settled over the land like morning fog. Just me, my open gate, and the wind brushing through the grass. Doug didn't say much. He gave a weak nod and walked off fast, disappearing down the road. I didn't stop him. He had enough to think about. I walked through the gate slowly, letting the sunlight hit my face. My boots crunched over gravel as I passed the posts they'd cemented in. I'd have to pull those out later. But for now, I was home again. No lock, no fence, no fake authority. Just me and my land. Later that evening, I sat on the porch with a coffee in hand, watching the sun dip behind the hills. The gate was wide open now. No chains, no warnings. Just the breeze moving through it like nothing had ever been there. But something had changed. Not just the fence. A few neighbors started walking by, people who never spoke before. One of them, Mr. Hensley, the old guy from 2 doors down, came up the drive slowly with his hands in his pockets. She really had us fooled, he said, quietly. I didn't say anything, just nodded. She came door to door 2 months back, said there was an emergency HOA meeting, said if we didn't support her fence plan, the whole neighborhood would be overrun by, well, her words were different. I looked over at him. You signed off on it? He shook his head. I didn't. But I didn't stop her either. Oh, pause passed between us. Honest. Heavy. I fought in Korea, he said suddenly. Came back, bought this house in '68. Never thought I'd see the day someone locked another man out of his own land just because his truck was too loud. I nodded. You and me both. He handed me something. An envelope. That's her original petition. She dropped it in my mailbox by mistake. It's full of fake signatures. I checked with the neighbors. None of them signed anything. Inside were names, scribbled in the same handwriting. Dozens. All forged. She built the entire fake HOA on lies, he said, and we let her. I didn't blame him. Not really. Karen was the kind of person who talked fast, moved faster, and kept the pressure high. People like that only stop when someone pushes back. Then he said something I didn't expect. If you ever want to run for real HOA president, I'd vote for you. I chuckled. No thanks. I've seen what that job does to people. We both laughed, but then something behind him caught my eye. A black SUV, tinted windows, parked across the road, engine running. Watching. And in that moment I realized something. This wasn't over yet. The SUV didn't move. Just sat there, idle, humming low like it was waiting for something or someone. I narrowed my eyes trying to make out who was inside, but the tint was too dark. Still, something about it felt off. Too new, too clean, and too deliberate. Mr. Hensley turned, noticed it too. You know that vehicle? I shook my head. Never seen it before. He frowned. Well, that one's not from around here. A few more seconds passed. Then the window cracked open, just enough for a hand to slip out. And that hand? It dropped something onto the road, a manila envelope. Then the SUV drove off, slow and silent, like it didn't want to be remembered. I walked over, picked up the envelope. No name, no writing. Inside, a thick stack of papers, photocopies. Legal ones, and one photo. Karen, standing beside 2 men in suits. Not police, not government either. Looked private. Behind them, a boardroom. A big one, the kind with granite tables and glass walls. And on the back of the photo, just 2 words were written in thick red ink. It wasn't just her. My pulse jumped. I flipped through the rest of the documents, HOA-related contracts, deeds, lists of names, even email printouts. Some had Karen's name, but most didn't. They had names I'd never heard of, titles like District Compliance Officer, Zoning Enforcer, and Private Development Liaison. Developers, real estate firms, lobbyists. This wasn't just a Karen with a fence. This was part of something bigger. And somehow, I'd just kicked a hornet's nest. I stayed up most of the night going through that envelope. Page after page, my jaw kept tightening. Karen wasn't working alone. She was just the tip of something slick, planned, and dangerous. There were zoning maps with red-lined areas, including my ranch. Emails between people I didn't recognize, talking about expanding HOA jurisdiction and cleaning up unregulated lots. And right in the middle of it all, my name, marked in bold, next to the word, holdout. They'd been planning to push me out long before the fence ever went up. Karen was just their hammer, loud, aggressive, easy to blame. But behind her, there was money, lots of it, and motive, because a new highway project was breaking ground just a few miles out, and with my land, they'd have direct access for a commercial loop. Without it, their plan stalled. I was the last piece, and I'd just told them no, publicly. By morning, I wasn't just angry. I was focused. I made a few calls, real ones, not to lawyers, to friends. One of them, Marcus, worked in county records. Another, Lila, used to be a zoning inspector before she got fed up with corruption and quit. They agreed to meet that afternoon. When they showed up, I handed them the envelope. Lila whistled low as she flipped through it. "This is bad," she said. "Some of these names, they've been flagged before for shady development deals. One of them even got caught faking HOA expansions in Florida." Marcus nodded. That's why they needed someone loud like Karen to draw the attention. She was their distraction. The real operation moves quietly, underground. I leaned forward. "So how do I stop this?" They looked at each other. Then Lila smiled, sharp and slow. "You already did?" she said. "You've got proof. You've got witnesses. And you've got something they didn't expect." She turned the photo over again. "You fought back and didn't fold." That's when Marcus pulled out a small device, a flash drive. "I hacked into one of the zoning archives. They left a back door open. This drive, it's got every email chain, every shady meeting note, every illegal land proposal, with timestamps." I stared at it. One little piece of plastic. Everything I needed to burn them all down. And this time no one was hiding behind